Welcome to Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Kevin Delp.
And I'm Melissa Delp.
Today we're looking at Expancity from Breaking Games. Expancity is a 2 to 4 player tile placement city building game that plays in about 45 to 60 minutes. This is designed by Alex Cutler and published by Breaking Games.
Players are competing against each other as they build a thriving metropolis block by block. You'll get points by building, especially next to certain city buildings, and by completing contracts. The player with the most points wins.
Let's look at the components. There's building blocks in the 4-player colors, rooftops, tiles, cards, a scoring chart, and a bag. There's also a plastic insert to hold all the game components.
At the beginning of the game, you place the City Hall tile in the middle of the table and place 3 random goal cards near the scoreboard. These award endgame points. Players receive a reference card, 2 random tiles from the draw bag, and begin with 6 of their color blocks. The rest are set to the side in a reserve pile.
On your turn, you place one of your 2 tiles into the city. Then take 3 building actions. Each action is either adding a block on an available tile or getting a block from your reserve.
There are 2 types of building tiles that you can build on, and they each have special rules. The green tiles hold residential buildings that can be 1, 2, or 3 stories high. The blue tiles hold commercial buildings, and they have to be 4 stories or higher. To complete a building, you cap it with a roof.
There's a few rules with building. You can only have 3 of your buildings in progress at a time. You can add only 1 block to each building on your turn, and you can only build up to 1 story higher than your tallest completed building of that type. So I can't build a 2-story residential until I've completed a 1-story residential. With commercial buildings, I can't build one that's 5 stories until I've completed one that's 4 stories.
At the end of your turn, you draw 2 tiles from the bag and keep 1. The other one goes back into the bag. Now, if you complete a building, you do 2 things. You score the building, and then you draw 2 contract cards and keep 1 of them.
For scoring, you'll get points for the number of stories and tile modifiers surrounding your building and negative points for any vacant lots touching your building. For example, this commercial building is 4 stories high. The mall gives each story a +2, the park gives each story a +1, but the vacant lot gives each story a -1, so each story is worth 3 points. The base point of 1 + 2 + 1 -1. So 3 points times 4 stories is 12 points. You move up the score track that amount.
Contract cards are secret goals that you can complete throughout the game. They range from 3 to 15 points. You're trying to complete buildings next to banks, stadiums, malls, or maybe control buildings in certain areas, or just have tiles in different configurations.
So completed means it's capped and controlled means it's your color.
Now, the more familiar you are with the types of goals that are in that stack, the better you might do, because you have some knowledge of the types of cards that could be drawn. Now, there's no guarantee that you'll actually draw the specific one that you might be going for, but that could be a little bit of an advantage the more familiar you are with the game.
Now, the game is over when all the tiles have been played, even the ones from your hand.
Then players earn the game end goal points, like who has the tallest building. These can get you a lot of points if you work on them throughout the game. The player with the most points wins.
This game clips along as players are placing their tiles, building their buildings. I was surprised at how fast it went, even with 4 players, and I appreciate that the turns are simple yet engaging.
Right, some of the choices they have to make are you going to build lots of buildings and complete them so you can get those contract cards, which can be worth tons of points? Or do you build fewer buildings but try to make them taller? If you have a 5 or 6 story building with lots of modifiers by it, you could get 30 points.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for that, so it's good to throw some tiles next to the opponent's buildings like vacant ones or negative modifier tiles.
Yeah, and that is the main player interaction in this game, placing tiles next to other people's buildings. So if you have an aggressive group, you may have a lot of that going on, but if you don't, then you might not have a lot of that competition.
I really like the building blocks and the rooftops. It's easy to tell at a glance which completed buildings are residential and which are commercial. The colors are vibrant, and it's got great table presence, especially when the game's finished. One thing that could be bigger is the draw bag. It was a little small trying to mix the tiles around in it and draw them out.
I like that you draw 2 tiles at the end of your turn and decide which one to keep. That gives you some options, and it gives you time to plan your next move during other players' turns. Now, you can still get into the situation where you're looking for a very specific tile, but you never draw it. So you do have to be flexible with your strategy.
This game reminds me like games like Manhattan, where you're building blocks onto buildings, although you're not building onto other people's buildings. And the scoring reminds me of games like Quadropolis, Between Two Cities, Suburbia, where you gain or lose points depending on what you're next to.
This game is easy to teach. I think the rule that we had to remind people the most of was just the building heights, but there is a player aid card that has that information on it.
So if you're looking for a city building game that plays in about an hour, then check out Expancity from Breaking Games and be sure to subscribe to Tantrum House. One way you can be
Oh, and I thought we weren't going to have any outtakes.
we got one today!
You're doing so well.
All right, go subscribe over there, depending on where you're at.